So in this video, I want to talk about the forensics program here at Northwest Christian University. And if you're watching this video and you have a background in speech and debate competition, then I'm going to ask you to bear with me because I'm going to define some terms for anybody who may be watching this video and may not know what all this means. So first of all, why do we call it forensics? You may think forensic, that sounds like CSI. Well, the word forensic means speaking for judgment. So if you think about a forensic scientist, what a forensic scientist does is a forensic scientist is available to testify in a courtroom, or at least prepares evidence that will be presented in a courtroom. And what's the outcome of the process in a courtroom? Well, it's to arrive at a judgment. So that scientist speaks or otherwise prepares a message that will help a judge or a jury arrive at a judgment. Now, the activity that we do competitively, our sport, is giving speeches and participating in debates. And that sport, it's not like basketball or soccer. You can't just count the number of baskets or goals. It's a lot more like gymnastics. It's a judged event. And so we are speaking for judgment. So what kinds of events, you might say? It's really kind of like, I've heard it compared a lot of times over the years to a track meet, because there are a lot of different things you can do. There's oral interpretation of literature. You can take a cutting from a poem, from a play, from a short story, and present them aloud expressively. And that really builds up your communicator's style and your presence. You can come in with prepared speeches that you've written and rehearsed in advance and deliver the speeches. They can be informative, they can be persuasive. You can also show up at a forensics tournament and enter some of the limited preparation events where they'll give you a topic and then they'll give you a limited period of time and you prepare the speech on the spot. And then you are judged compared to other speakers. Now this may feel to you like, whoa, this is terrifying. Why would I ever want to do this? Well, for the same reason that people will go to the gym and they'll lift weights even though it makes them feel sore the next day. That soreness is their growth. And the terror that you feel the first few times you go to a forensics meet, well, that's making you familiar with the situation. That's acclimatizing you to being up in front of strangers, and you can really do a lot of growing in those circumstances. You can also get some really honest feedback because you're doing it for people who are trained, people who know what they're looking for. They also have no idea who you are, so they'll be very blunt with you. They'll tell you what your strengths are. They'll also be very, very candid about what you need to work on. And you can do all of this and not worry about your grade because you're giving these speeches and you are being scored, but you're not being graded. It's entirely different from your grade point average, so it's sort of a safe outlet for you to take the skills and to develop them and build them up even more. Now you might be thinking, well, I'm interested in speech communication, but I'm really interested in interpersonal communication, so none of this applies to me. Well, but it does, because one of the things about the forensics community is you wind up making friends, and by friends I mean contacts, at a lot of different colleges around the region and sometimes even around the country. Some of the tournaments we've attended in the past year, we've had schools coming from as far away as Massachusetts and Texas. And when you know faculty members, and which department are they in? The communication department. When you know a professor at all these different schools around the country, a professor in the communication department, if you decide to take a focus in interpersonal communication and go on to graduate school, it can be very, very helpful for you to know someone to talk to have kind of an inside track, because a lot of these graduate admissions can be very competitive, and if they know the quality of your work, if they know that you are a very sharp thinker, that you've got a good work ethic, and they are on the admissions committee for that graduate program, then that's a way that you might be able to get kind of a fast start in your career. So it's not just people in public speaking, it's also good for people in interpersonal communication, depending on what your plans are. Now, for those of you who have a background in forensics, here's what I can tell you. I can tell you, first of all, that in your novice year, in the first year of forensics, you learned about 80% of everything you're ever going to learn. That's not just my opinion. I have been coaching forensics for a very, very long time, and almost all the coaches I talk with, they agree that that first learning curve is so steep, and that first wave of improvement, when you get to the point where you are just sort of basically competitive and you can make the elimination rounds, that's the biggest part of improvements. Now, it is good to go ahead and put the effort in to try to get that next 20%, but you have to understand that it comes at a price. You have to understand that if you go on to college and you put all of your time and all of your energy into continuing to improve in forensics, then there are other opportunities you're going to miss out on. And I have known people over the years who were superstars in forensics, but they couldn't even consider studying abroad because they couldn't take a semester off if they wanted to be national champion by the time they were by the time they were ready to graduate. And I've known people who had to skip taking foreign languages and had to skip taking science classes and math classes that they really would have benefited from, and they've had to talk with their advisors and figure out other ways to meet requirements because their travel schedule was so severe that there's no way they could pass those classes because they would need to be gone so often. So it does come at a price. I say all of that to lay the foundation to talk about the forensics program at Northwest Christian. If you are absolutely obsessed with forensics, hungry for success, your goal is to be national champion, don't come here. Let me say that again. Don't come here. There are a number of Christian schools I can recommend to you. Right off the top of my head, I think highly of Northwest Nazarene. I think highly of Point Loma. There are other schools you can look at, good Christian schools with good forensics programs where they will help you, they'll get behind you and provide resources to where you really can work toward those ambitions. Not here. We go to about 2 tournaments a semester, and they're all local. We are a good school for people who have loved forensics, who want to keep one foot in forensics, who think they have more improving that they could do, but they've reached a point where it's time for there to be balance in their lives, where they want to try other things as well. Maybe they want to try theater, maybe they want to play a sport, maybe they want to learn how to play a musical instrument. If that's you, then this could be the place for you as far as continuing with your forensics participation. I will say, with forensics, as with everything else, we try very hard to take advantage of our position right across the street from the University of Oregon. We have several scrimmages a year where we have people from forensics teams from surrounding schools come in. We've had Lane come in several times. We've had some University of Oregon debaters come in a couple of times. And because it's just, for the U of O debaters, it's just right across the street, and for the Lane debaters, it's just a few blocks, we have these scrimmages and we get a lot of rounds in and we get a lot of feedback and a lot of improvement, and the logistics are so very simple. There are a lot of colleges where if they want to go and find another school and have any debates at all, it's a major undertaking that costs a lot just in travel expenses. But we have the advantage of having several programs close together. It's also the case that the University of Oregon is outstanding in debate. Now, they do parliamentary debate. We do a different format, we do public debate. But there's a lot about debate that translates between the formats, and what we've managed to do this year, at the time that I'm recording this, is we've managed to talk one of their very best debaters, a young man by the name of Hank Fields, who is the defending champion of the National Parliamentary Debate Association and the defending winner of the National Parliamentary Tournament of Excellence. In the fall, he is going to be teaching our Introduction to Forensics class. So our students will get 15 weeks of how to think like a champion debater from someone who's achieved the very difficult task of unifying the 2 national championships in parliamentary debate, something that's not happened very often. And we have the advantage of resources like that because of how near we are, how closely positioned we are to the University of Oregon. So, you ought to think carefully if forensics is something you've done in the past about what are your needs today, what role do you think it should occupy in your life in the future? And under certain circumstances, we're not the right program for you, but under other circumstances, if you think that 80% of improvement you've probably already had, that you are willing to take it up to 85%, maybe up to 90%, but you want for there to be room in your life for other things as well. If that sounds like a good fit for you, then we might be the forensics program for you.